Boom. And we are live. Welcome to The Contradiction with myself, Byron McDonald, and Lethea McCann. As I say each week, Facebook is a private-owned interface. So if you do get logged off, just hop back onto the page and you'll find a new link there. We're also multi-streaming on various platforms. So comment and
engage.
That's right. You must always engage.
Hey, listen up. If you're lucky enough to fall in love with someone, I love you. Try not to ruin it by Googling them. Okay.
The Contradiction with Lethea McCann and Byron McDonald.
Just to make sure you don't forget what we look like.
So as I say each week, The Contradiction is about bringing different viewpoints together and allowing you, the viewer, the opportunity to comment and engage and share your viewpoint on tonight's topic. So each week we get a new guest host with a new topic to discuss and contradict each other's viewpoints. So our guest host for tonight's show is an amazing couple all the way from San Antonio, Texas, USA, and that is Dominic and Serena Fournier. Am I saying it correctly?
Fournier.
Okay, Fournier. Dominic and Serena are co-owners of At Last Entertainment and Events, revolving primarily around the wedding industry. Dominic and Verena also. So, by the way, Byron, what was the reason
you
why
just
you
stop when you heard wedding industry? While you doing your thing, go on, introduce them.
Okay,
We're getting married next year only. You have to leave that. Just go on with us. Now.
Okay, so they are also quite active on TikTok with almost 100K followers, where they share amazing ideas and tips on wedding planning. Dominic got into the industry through stand-up comedy and is also a lifelong soccer player, having traveled to 39 countries, including South Africa. And Serena has a passion for business and marketing, and in her spare time, she loves cooking and yoga.
Wow.
So without any further ado, let us go ahead and bring on our international guest, Dominic and Serena. I'm sorry. Serena. Verena is my cousin's name, so I just saw it recently.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
I was trying to look very stoic as that great introduction. Thank you very much for that. That was very nice.
Yes, that's very kind.
How are you guys doing? What have you been up to? How are you guys doing lately?
What have we not been up to?
Well, you see by the bags under my eyes, I'm coming off of 3 weddings in a row, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So when you said we're doing it Sunday, I'm like, great. let me get some coffee because but
Absolutely.
I'm ready.
We're ready for this.
Perfect. So, Dominic and Serena, please tell our viewers what you've been up to, what's been keeping you busy, and also a little bit about At Last Entertainment.
Yes, of course. So we're the owners of At Last Entertainment and Events. We do primarily weddings here in San Antonio, Texas. But we started getting really into social media about a year ago, and we've been helping couples across the globe with their wedding planning through mostly TikTok, TikTok Live. And we are also launching a brand new business called The Bride Source here this week, where you will be able to access one-on-one help for planning your wedding and also some DIY tips and tricks and all that good stuff.
Because it's hard. People get engaged. Like, I don't know, some other people we just met. Congratulations to you. Did I give that? Should I have said something? I'm sorry.
No, I think that it's common knowledge, right?
Yeah.
It has been announced, so yes.
Okay, good. As soon as I said it, I'm like, wait, get those words back. But I want to definitely say, Byron, the picture you put up earlier, you had more hair. I appreciate you like coming my way for you this. Did you trim it? Like, let me look like Dominic and trim it.
He loves
like,
the hair jokes.
Yeah, well, Mother Nature has decided my haircut, so I don't have an option. But it probably looks like you could grow it back if you wanted to.
Yeah, but I find that it's a sexy look. They love it, though.
Definitely, it is.
She embraces me more since the bald head. I don't understand why.
Yeah, I like it too.
It feels good.
My God, right? I asked my boys through COVID. They had a few COVID cuts, and I go, "You want Daddy's haircut?" And they were like, "No." I'm like, "Well, enjoy it while you can. Someday you may not have that option." But so what I was
Dominic,
I was gonna say,
go ahead.
when you get married, it's people like think, "Oh, I got a ring on my finger," and they're like, "Now what do I do?" Right? It's a whole world in and of itself, and it's hard to navigate those waters. And you're like, people have no idea just how many decisions they have to make. You got to pick bridesmaids dresses. You got to pick a menu. You got to find a venue. You got to find a photographer. You got to pick music. You got to pick linens. I mean, there's so much, and it just people start to go, and they go, "Never mind, we're going to Vegas." I go, "Don't go to Vegas. We can help."
We can help.
Right. So that's kind of how we got here, right?
Of course,
Excellent.
exactly. So, Dominic and Serena, you know exactly why we got you on to tonight's show, and that is to discuss the following topic. And seeing that you are business partners, also married, maximizing your strengths while supporting your spouse.
Yeah, please give a little bit of advice on that one, please. We need-
I think so does he. He needs some great advice on this one as well.
No, it's important because as you can see, I'm married to quite the personality, right? So a lot of times what is good about each one of us, you know, we can really focus on growing personally, but it's sometimes hard not to like leave the other person behind, right? So you really want to make sure that you're always keeping that in mind. That's what we try to do, is hone in on each other's strengths and support each other throughout the business, in our personal life, that kind of a thing.
And she really underestimates herself. She's really quite the personality as well. I've dated a few people before where
What?
I was. Did you not know this?
It's okay.
No, you're the only person I ever. But it's hard when you go into a party and I was like, hey, and I'd start working the room and I'd look back and the other person's like on the wall, like, uh-oh. So now I got to go back and say, sorry, come on. But she is fine in a room full of strangers. So don't let her tell you like she doesn't have a big personality herself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's you do kind of find a balance. Like, you know, you maximize your strength. And as a business, I take a lot of the first phone calls, but behind the scenes, she's like, gives me the notes, writes it all up. She manages the back end of the business. So we have a pretty good balance scope for sure.
Yeah.
But it's so difficult, especially in today's day and age. So you, no matter where you find yourself in the world, because even couples become envious of each other. How do you, as a couple, surpass that stage where you're like, I don't need to be envious of you because you're my partner, and whatever we build together. Yes, something might happen where we break up, might get divorced. These are the things that happen in life because you become unhappy. And as partners, you do become unhappy at certain stages when you're pissed off at each other, where certain things are not working your way, emotions get involved. How do you still support that person knowing that you may be on the failing side, especially from a man's point of view, because we build with an ego and we would like to provide.
Oh, boy.
So it's really hard. I mean, I'm a big communicator. I like to think, but I know myself too. Like even this morning, like we have one of our DJs is going out to an event today, and I had to set up her gear for her. We have a female DJ. She's fantastic. She's also bilingual. She speaks Spanish. That comes up a lot here in South Texas for sure. Because we're a stone's throw from Mexico, so we have it's a very big melting pot here as well.
Yeah.
But they always ask me, and I'm like, I do not habla Espanol a tiny bit at all, right? So, but I can feel my emotions when I'm like overtired, like coming out of a busy weekend, and I'm trying to focus there. And she was asking me questions, and I could just feel my, you're like, it's right there under the surface. I'm like, but I'll tell her sometimes, like, we can't talk about this right now because I'm too emotional. I'm too tired. My fuse is too short or whatever, right? And so we usually try to say, let's talk about this later in the week when I have a chance to recover, because I don't want to blow up just because I'm fatigued, right?
Yeah, and it's a big piece of it is respecting that piece, right? Not pushing your agenda when you know that person may be not in the space to talk about it or not feeling well or whatever it is. So that's a huge portion. And when you talk about like the ego part, like up until about a year ago, I wasn't seen on any of our social media or anywhere in our business. I was doing all the stuff behind the scenes. But I decided that I wanted to be more of a face to the company, and he was 100% on board. I don't think that it interfered with, you being your presence, but it's been a good thing for us.
And I just one of the questions I have is, how do you actually focus on building your strengths? Because in most relationships, it's not always that both of you grow at the same rate or in the same form, in the same way. So how do you focus on yourself and also be that support system for your spouse? Should your spouse be in a space of confusion? Because I think we all can go through that, feeling a little bit, I wouldn't say lost, but confused with what our passion is, where we want to go moving forward, what it is that we want for the future. So of course, as a couple, you find that out, but also as an individual, how you want to develop and how you want to grow. Especially in today's very hard times where so many people are suffering from depression and anxiety and having to deal with that while being in a relationship. So how do you feed yourself and also invest energy into your partner, helping your partner to also develop and grow?
I just want to tell Samuel, he said, I'm not married, but does this topic apply with Jeev and Boy? That's where it starts.
Yes.
It needs to apply there. Otherwise, you're going to get married to someone that does not support you. And that's supposed to be a foundation where you started dating.
Exactly.
So yes, it does definitely apply for a relationship. But anyway, I missed in your mouth. You asked the question.
So how do you do it? How do you, Dominic and Serena, how do you do that in your relationship and for each other? You have been married for over 10 years, have 3 beautiful children together, as you mentioned in your bio. So how do you guys do that?
I think, honestly, and this is me personally speaking, you can speak for yourself, but I take a step back every now and then and make sure that I am prioritizing his feelings and his needs before my own, sometimes even. There are times where I will be really headstrong on something's really important to me, and I'll express that and make sure that he knows just how much I'm passionate about it. But if it's something that can wait or can sit on the back burner for a while, and we can take care of each other and I can talk through what is important to him, I think that is something I've learned to do. It wasn't always that way, right? And the question was about, does it apply to girlfriend, boyfriend? I think that it absolutely does, but it evolves. You have to learn to, be supportive of each other and understand each other and how you work as a couple.
Because you got to figure it out between you, the two of you first, right? That's like the foundation of the whole thing. Because once you bring other things into it, like a business or buying a home or kids, oh my goodness. I mean, if this isn't a good foundation, I mean, you bring kids into the that just turns into a circus, right? I mean, and full disclosure, we were both married before. We both had a swing and a miss. That's a baseball term. I don't know if that's an American thing, but swing and a miss means you swung and you missed. Kind of like cricket. I guess swing and a miss could be cricket too, right?
Right.
Yeah, but you have to hit the wickets in cricket.
Right.
You just have to miss 3 times in baseball.
You get
That's like lucky.
We can go all day on comparing the sports. I'm ready for this conversation, right?
Okay.
He's ready.
But my first spouse, we were going to have, I knew I wanted to be a father my whole life, right? That's always been a goal of mine. And it was like a last conversation we had with her where I was talking about how she gets sensitive about this topic, but
No, it's
I come home from a wedding one night and she was still awake and she was upset. And like, what's the matter? And she didn't want to talk about it. And again, I'm a communicator and she wasn't. So that's something else to try to figure out. Sammy, was that Sammy, the guy's name that asked? If you can't communicate, it's not going to work, but communication is key. So she finally told me, like, I changed my mind. I don't want to have kids anymore. And I was like, wow. So I never thought that relationship would end, but that was too big of a hurdle for me to try to get over. Right. So a couple years later, I was like, I was either going to resent her for not having kids, or if we had kids, she was going to never be on board as being a parent. And you got to be all in for being a parent, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So it just never worked out, and neither did hers. So it was kind of like your world falls down around you, and you slowly start to build it back up in a different way. And and we met, and oh my gosh, it's just been, we're so compatible, and you got to find that where your strengths and her strengths don't contradict each other or don't bump heads, but complement each other, right?
Contradiction.
Contradiction. See how I threw that in there?
Yeah. You just advertised us beautifully there.
You're welcome.
Let me just go through to two comments at least. So Sharon said here, let me just teach you something in Afrikaans. So she said, a bleskop, ja, Byron. That means
bald head. Bleskop is a bald head.
A bald head. So she likes a bald head, she said.
Right. There you go. See?
Lekker bleskop. That's what you must say. Bleskop.
Bleskop.
I like it.
So that's it. Anyway, so she said, just to add on, she said, when couples get married and then they stop dating, that's uncool. They must keep dating. I agree with that. And then Lorraine goes on and says,
when you start a relationship, you start to build that communication to support each other. I think you learn when when your partner feel to be able to open after a long day. Like Serena mentioned, I've learned in previous relationships, we women intend to always put our feelings before our partner. We can also go to Sharon's comment. So Sharon says, I was married for 24 years until divorce came. For years, I tried to uphold my spouse, but due to his extramarital affairs, I gave up. I always tried and portray him on a golden platter.
Oh, wow. True. This is where the question comes in, guys. You speak about balance, eh?
Yeah.
Now, when you're in a relationship with someone, it's hard not to enable them because you don't want to seem like a asshole, because you end up looking like a jerk if you don't enable your partner. Say, for instance, your partner does certain things and you maybe say, look here, this is not right. But every time you mention that, it looks like you're putting them down, where you don't want to enable them to walk into the wrong pathway. How do you find that balance when you know you love this person? There's the pros and cons of supporting a spouse. You can't blindly also support a spouse.
Right.
That's the problem in today's society. And when you don't support them, they say, yeah, you don't love me, you don't care about me. But what you're doing is not something I can support.
Yes.
How do you guys figure that out? How do you find that balance and that respect?
So, I mean, honestly, it's timing too, part of it. Like, there are times when it is appropriate for me to bring something up that he's doing maybe that bothers me or that I see as, negative or whatever it is. And I will wait until a time I can address it in a loving way, instead of just firing one off, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, that does not get received well. And it's all in your tone and the way you deliver it. If you can sit down and have dinner and have a conversation and address things and talk about them in length, that will be received much better than, I think, sometimes we're quick to like nitpick each other throughout the day, and that isn't taken well. Nobody likes to be talked to like that. So,
and I think it's better to have a bunch of small battles instead of just wait and let it build up, and then you're like, raw, and then you have this huge blowout. That's like relationship ending, I think. But because again, I don't want to bring it up, but that's how my first spouse and I were. I knew she was so quick to fly off the handle. I couldn't bring stuff up. So I was always like, okay. Until finally it was so much that I just couldn't stand it. And I would just explode. And then it would be these huge blow ups. And so with her and I, oftentimes like, there'll be something, upsetting, and I'll just be like, "Rah, rah," and I'm able to like spit it out with her, and she spits hers out, and then we're like, okay, and then we can talk through it calmly because we've already expressed our anger or our frustration, and then it doesn't build up because, man, that build up, man, that is hard to just go through the day with all that. It's just, you can't even look at the person because you're so stressed.
And that starts to change your feelings, I think, too. As you get those buildup of resentments, you start to look at the person different. You start to not like who they are, and you start to not like your relationship. And that's damaging. Like you said, it can be relationship ending because you start to not be compatible, not be in love, all those bad things that.
Are you saying you don't love me anymore?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that is what happens if you don't express yourself. But you always want to be respectful. That's my thing too. Is we don't call names. We don't, none of that. But try to pick the right times also. Yeah. Sure.
So what would you guys classify as deal breakers? Because in many relationships as well, there is one partner that's growing and that's moving forward, and another partner that's just stagnated. And the partner that feels like they're moving forward then does not feel attracted to their spouse anymore because they feel that they're outgrowing their partner, or they forget the reason why they're with that partner in the first place. So, I mean, what is your opinion on people that choose to leave a relationship because of lack of growth when it comes to their partner? It could even be financially, because most of the time that success and growth is seen as financial gain.
Right.
And that's where a lot of people either divorce because of financial pressure on that relationship.
Right.
What's your opinion on that?
So this kind of starts like back with our history. We both dated a lot, like in our 20s, and we had experience with relationships. So now that we're married to each other, we appreciate so much of what we have and the compatibility. And I'm not saying that people can't get married young and be successful. I think it just takes a little more work when you don't have experiences to build on with other people and know what you like and what you don't like, that kind of a thing. So it's easier in those instances to outgrow the person and to forget why you were, you fell in love with them in the first place, all those good things. So I'm not necessarily like, I mean, just from personal experience, it's just helpful to have experiences to build off of in a relationship. We've always said that.
Exactly.
I agree.
It is. It's really, I mean, we're in the wedding industry, so we see couples all the time. And there are times just at a consultation when I'm helping them plan the wedding and I'm like, I give it 6 months. I mean, no, I would never. I would never. But they just, they don't, like, sometimes they're just, it just seems abrasive. They're just not nice to each other. And then there's other times where I'm just like, you two are so crazy for each other. And you see it in the event. Like last night, after they did their first dance together, I was at a wedding last night. The two of them, I said, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs. O'Brien with their names. And everybody was like, yay. And afterwards, they were like, they hugged it out, they kissed. And I said, welcome back. I think you forgot the rest of us were here for a minute. Because they were just in their own little bubble, right? And it's just beautiful to see. Yeah, but that's like great when you see that, because they're probably going to grow together, right? Because relationships are hard. It's work sometimes, right? It's not always that honeymoon phase ends. And then you need to like appreciate each other's strengths and weaknesses and grow together, because it's hard. Like the poor lady that said 24 years. I mean, infidelity, that's a whole nother thing. If somebody cheats on you, good luck coming through that. That is hard, right? But the trust and the communication and just being able to grow together. And there's moments where she's in the spotlight and I got to like just support her. And then there's times where it switches back to me. But for the most part, we kind of built this business together, and we kind of both have so much pride in it. It's so fun to see it grow. So.
And I think too, a big thing that I've noticed is that sometimes you get around people who talk about their spouse or their partner negatively, right? So I am always privately and publicly, I'm supportive of him vocally. I'm always putting him in good light. Like I always want people to think the best of him, just the way I do, right? And I think that that's important. I think a lot of people nowadays, it doesn't even have to be in relationships, just in general in society, are really quick to just be negative and spiteful and mean and judgmental and all those things. And that starts to have an effect on how you view people and the world around you. And it works the same way in relationships. If you can remember to be respectful and kind when speaking about your spouse, it's just helpful in general for me.
It's hard because I am a bumbling ass most of the time. So I'm like,
you're like me, man.
I feel like we're kindred spirits, you and I. Right?
That's why I went bald. It's a force. As soon as you speak a lot of crazy bleskop, it means that you get a bald head.
Verbal
If you
diarrhea.
have verbal diarrhea, you have a bald head afterwards. All that brains is the hair can't hold on.
It takes a lot of confidence to wear that bald head, so you need to carry it with that confidence.
But let's just quickly go to two or three comments.
Okay, so Lazal says, I have had rheumatoid arthritis for 20 plus years now. It slowed me down completely and I have constant pain. It has put strain on our 32-year-long marriage, but it also brought us closer. My husband assists me and supports me and has taken over the cooking duties, for instance. I again have taken over all the administrative duties of our household, making all the appointments, handling banking matters. I do believe our marriage would not have survived this if we did not start at a basis of
At the bottom. Started from the bottom, now we're here, basically. We're going to go into it.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those. You don't need to install selfless love.
Yeah.
Started on the basis of selfless love.
Yeah.
So they this is the question I wanted to have now to you guys or so. Now I'm going to bring, it's maybe not into the topic, but it stretched to the topic also about supporting your spouse and strengths. You know, a lot of ladies nowadays date guys based on potential, which is fair, which is okay if you're young. But imagine you in your 30s and you still basing 30s, 40s, you're dating a guy on his potential. Do you think it's fair on yourself as a woman? Do you think it's fair on yourself as a man? How do you support that person around that age? You've seen many guys with potential, many girls with potential. Do you still support that person, or do you have to look out for patterns? How do I just not date in that bracket? Do I go for what I need? What would your advice be?
Well, I mean, we can talk about our experience. I mean, when we met, we both had very little, in all honesty. Like, we struggled for many years and probably both looked at each other in the sense that, you know, we we were leaning. I mean, we both were dating on the potential. We liked the person, the personality, all that good stuff, but we didn't have much, right? So, you know, I understand where people are coming from in that sense. I think where the problem ends up happening is people get bitter or, you know, they stop growing, they stop trying. And that is where I think it's hard as a spouse or a partner to continue to support the person if they're really stagnant and they're not moving forward. That creates resentments and issues. And if one person's just taken off and, you know, doing all these wonderful things, that's hard. But I also get that the other person, then their ego is wounded and they are seeing their spouse just do all this stuff and maybe they're jealous or all these other things go on. So that's a real challenging place to be, I think.
Yeah.
It is. We were, you know, when they say when you're at the bottom, you only got one way to go. So I wouldn't say we bottomed out, but I was just coming out of the divorce. And when my ex-wife was like, how are we going to do this? I said, I just want the dog. So it was just me and my dog. And I was living with a soccer player friend. I rented a room from him. And I was just like, where am I going in life? And then, this little lovely lady. I actually had a foot injury. So I hobbled into a store that sold inserts. And here, this lovely woman helped me get some inserts in my shoes. And I mean, my foot really hurt. And I was like, she was just giving me the pitch, right? The sales pitch. And I was like, well, she has really pretty eyes. And my foot was like, hey, focus. We're not in here to find a chick. We're in here to get my foot fixed. But I'm like, so anyway, I called back and asked her out, and here we are. But I would say, like, when you just see someone, right? Like, nobody's opened their mouth yet. You've just laid eyes on each other. It starts purely physical. It's like, what is it that, you know, maybe you like a bald head. Maybe you like a brunette. Maybe she's got maybe you're a butt guy. Maybe you're a boob guy. I don't know, whatever it is that, like, from the other side, maybe you're like, he's got nice shoulders. I don't know. But it all starts physical. But it's got to be more than that, right? I mean, I have a friend that I work with, and I hope this is appropriate. It's not too bad, I promise. He said, from a guy's perspective, you say, like,
That's my dad. Sorry. My dad just commented. Hi, Dad.
I had to pop it up. I just wanted Dominic to see that. Sorry.
Way to throw me off my track, father-in-law. No, but
No, my
I was
dad's
like,
listening. You better
yeah,
be
I know. I better be careful.
Yeah.
But I had a friend I used to work with, and he said, "Show me a beautiful woman, and I'll show you a guy who's tired of sleeping with her." And I'm like, wow. I mean, that's like, but I mean, it's a point. It's like it's got to be more than beauty. It's got to be more than physical attraction. You've got to connect mentally and emotionally and intellectually too, right? Because if you're like a really deep thinker, and I dated a girl. I had this sweatshirt, and I got it at the Chelsea Stadium. I was in London. And I bought a sweatshirt, and it had a little star on London. And I was dating this girl, and I mean, I've traveled a lot, and I've got my master's in education. And she was like, and I said, "Yeah, it's right here." And I was showing something about London or whatever, and she goes, "Oh, is that Europe?" And I went, "Okay, let the grown-ups talk, sweetie." I was like, I mean, but it was hard. I was like, how do you not know that? You know, it was just a hard thing for me to deal with.
But that's something that's important to you.
It is.
Right?
It
and
is.
So you have to know. You have to know
absolutely is.
What is important to you in your life and match that somehow in another person.
But that's part of it. That intellectual competent, the connection between just being able to have an intellectual conversation, you know.
Exactly.
Or if I said, how was the wedding? I say, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And somebody's like, oh, that's sweet. Did you come up with that? I go, no, I didn't come up with that. That's a famous line. I'm like, oh, never mind, you know?
And I just love what Dominic mentioned, because that is exactly how Biden and I, how our relationship flourished. We were not attracted to each other initially because we saw each other solely as friends. I couldn't see him as anything more than a friend, because I saw him as an older brother.
Older?
Yeah, so you know that.
Yeah, I see the older piece too.
No.
Just a few years older. And you know, when we were friends, we would sit up late nights, have coffee, talk, just speak and connect and communicate on a much deeper level than what I have before, what I've experienced before.
Say in my waterline what I have before. It's fine. Go on. Makes me feel good. Makes me feel good.
And because of that, we found so much love for each other through our friendship, and it strengthened the friendship love to a point where we were afraid to actually enter into a relationship because we did not want to destroy or put at risk what a good relationship we had. But then we just realized, but we're even better together. So let's just use, as Biden, what you mentioned is use your strengths to complement each other. So Biden has certain strengths that I can learn from, and I have certain strengths that he can learn from. So we're learning and we're growing together, and we're also allowing each other to shine through those strengths. Because I think the problem comes in where couples in a relationship, like we mentioned, they become envious of their partner, or jealous of their partner because of certain traits that their partner has that they struggle or that they don't possess, instead of looking at their partner as, what can I learn from this person, like everybody else in your life? What can I learn from you, and how can I incorporate what you have and apply it within my own life? So I think that is definitely something that we both have learned to do, and what we admire about each other. But I just want to go through some of the comments, because we have quite a few comments that came in. If we can just move up, Biden.
I think this one.
Okay, so
I think Jason was joking on this side. I need to focus. I think that was a joke. I need to focus on my strengths. I can't support now unless we have a kid. Otherwise, no. There's no I in team. That's your perspective, Jason. I will leave it. I will leave it on there until your wife see it, screenshot it. Send it to her.
But that's actually another thing, having to maximize your strengths while supporting your spouse and having children.
Oh, wow. That's another level.
That's a whole nother level.
That's what you guys are doing at the moment. So another comment.
Okay, so Yasmina says, you just really learn and grow when you get married, as then you're together every day. Then you really get to know each other's personality, strengths. Obviously, when you start dating, you start to learn things about each other. But I feel like when you get married, it just gets deeper. You build on your foundation.
And just two more.
So Lurian says, again on your answer, Serena and Dominique, being able to communicate and also feeling secure and free to address the issue before it explodes. I actually have one question though, and I don't know if Biden or Dominique and Serena can answer. I've seen a lot of people, they date for many years, 10 years. And as soon as they get married, their marriage doesn't even last over 3-4 years.
Are you talking about mine? This is how you throw out personal information.
Yes.
I'm throwing out personal information.
No, but that is a fact. I suppose you're part of
fact.
the
Listen to that is a fact now. That's a fact.
you're part of the statistic. So Byron, if you have experience in that, I don't know, but what is your take on that? Why do you think that things change after marriage when it shouldn't? It should actually strengthen. Your relationship should strengthen after marriage. But why is it that it ends up crumbling within the first few years?
Okay. I don't know. You guys want to go first? That's why we have guest hosts. I'll give her my fine line of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's kind of an issue, and this is like a big topic, but with the way people perceive marriage nowadays, like as a negative thing, honestly, like there's so much negativity around the fact that people are going to end up divorced and it's not going to work out. And it's almost seen as a bad thing, right? So I think that as a starting point for people is challenging in of itself. They almost see it as like a downhill from there kind of thing, right? So am I hearing an echo? Is that me?
No, it's probably on the side. Let's see. You can speak out.
Yeah, of course. So I think just in that sense, like when people are dating, they see it more as like fun. They have the ability to like get out whenever they can. But I think it's more or less that marriage piece is just, it's seen in a negative light these days a lot of times.
And it's weird, isn't it? Because I mean, really, for us, like we were already together for years. We had, when I met her, she had a little 9-month-old, and so we have 3 kids. The Lily, our oldest, she's 10, going on 21. She's not mine biologically, but 9 months old. I've been the only father figure in her life. That's my baby, right? I mean, so when it's actually a funny story. I wear 2 wedding rings, and it's because I tell people she doesn't trust me. She wants me to be extra married when we go out in public. So. But the actual reason is when I adopted Lily a couple years ago, I put this one on for her. So this is for her. This is for my Lily, right? But it's I'm extra married. That's what I tell people. But and then we had a son together before we were even married. And so for me, it was like I could care less if the state of Texas approves of my relationship or not. It was just kind of a stamp on a piece of paper. But you should think of it that way. It's like you're together in the relationship, married or not. I mean, I don't understand why you put a ring on a finger and now it becomes more challenging or doesn't. I don't know. It's a strange thing, isn't it?
Yes.
From my perspective, it depends also what age you get into a relationship. Say if you're younger or so, it's this sense of materialistic world that we're trapped in. So you're younger and you're not married yet, and you're dating, you're courting each other, you're going places. Yes, you have your arguments, your fights and stuff, but you feel there's no sense of responsibility yet to this person because people have this trapped mindset. When you're just dating, there's no responsibility, there's nothing holding you on. Now, as soon as you get married, stuff escalates. If there's not a balance in the relationship or a good understanding, you might have been together for 20 years and be unhappy and get married and divorce in a year. For my reason and understanding is because the pressure mounts on. Now you're married, maybe you're young, you're still young, you're married. I'm just going based on what I think on age and mentality wise. You're married, you get married, and now all of a sudden you need to buy a good house. You need to buy that car. The things you've been dreaming about feels so pressured now. Now it feels all pressure. But when you were courting each other, you were talking about these things. You know you have to put in action, and everything takes time. Yeah. But as soon as you're married, you feel like it needs to happen now. Now, otherwise we look like amateurs. We look like a failing couple.
Yeah, and there's the pressure that I think the spouse is put on each other, and then they feel from society too, right?
And family,
right?
Having a baby, the parents are like, "When's my grandbaby coming?" I'm like, "Hey, let them just be a married couple for a year or 2 before you bring a kid into it."
They don't want to. Yeah. I mean, that's hard. You get all these perspectives and opinions, and then there's the whole piece of like social media, like what a married couple looks like and what they should have, right? If you throw that in there too, then people really feel like they're failing or they're not doing enough or, all that stuff. So it's hard.
Do you guys, I mean, in America, we have, I don't know if this is an international thing, but midlife crisis, you've heard the term, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's having it now.
So Serena asked me that one day, like I did something. I don't remember what I did. I made some silly purchase, and she goes, "Oh my God, you're not having a midlife crisis, are you?" And I was like, "No," because it's really tricky. Everybody's going to be an individual, of course, and have their own things that they feel like they missed out on or something. But for me, we got married late in life. For me, I was a little bit older, and I had traveled. I had a sports car. I always wanted to be a father. So when I finally got to this stage, I thought that ship had sailed, and I missed my chance to be a father. So when I became a father with her, I was just all in. But I didn't feel like I missed anything. I had already had life experiences. I had multiple jobs. I had careers that had changed a few times. I had done stand-up comedy for years. So I feel like I didn't like miss anything. And that's a hard thing for when they get, and again, I'm not trying to talk anybody out if you're engaged and you're young, but if you're young and you haven't had those life experiences, then you get older. And the other thing is sometimes like maybe you were dorky in high school or you were dorky in college and then you grew into yourself. Maybe you got fit. Maybe you just aged well, and now you're getting attention from people that you never did.
Yes.
And then that's another thing that's hard. So it's like almost like people change a lot. I'm not the same guy I was in my 20s or my 30s. And I'm like, I look back and go, man, you were an idiot. What the hell? But you change. And if as long as the couple grows together and changes together and still continues to compliment each other, that's great. But man, it can be tricky. Yeah, it can be hard.
Exactly.
What you just said now is so profound because reason being, it happens right across the globe. No matter if you're rich or poor, it happens across the globe. And what you said about life experiences, and it happens. I've had friends of mine have been nerds during through school, and they get this good job. They find the first girl, they marry her, they're happy with her, and boom, year later they find out, flip, I can fly to Paris, I can fly to this places, I have the money, I can go wherever I want and cheat like nobody's business and sleep around and can't be with the wife anymore because of not knowing what you want, and that's a good thing. And like I said, it happens especially to people that did not have previously before. So, and even so more to people that had, but they did not have the knowledge or the friends group to give them that experience. That's why I say that advice is globally and it's so profound. You find it anywhere. Well done on that part. It also reminded me of something of that line. But let's quickly go to a couple of comments on this side also quickly.
I think we should end it on me saying something profound.
We'll just remind you of your dad's comment. And before we go on to the other one.
Yes, I love it, Dad. Thank you.
He's right. I am the luckiest.
But I think we did this one. Eh?
So
I think we did this one. And okay, we did not.
So Lorian says, true, Dominic, you don't see the potential when you fall in love instantly. You get to learn the potential. But if you're in love and know it will work, you will make it work growing together. That's what she says. And Jason says, I love this couple, really learning a lot. Can hear you guys have been through so much together. And then Yasmina says, so true, Jason. I love this couple too. Their foundation is strong, passionate, filled with respect and love. Awesome. So there's a lot of love going your way.
You guys are too funny.
Thanks, Wayne. I like that.
Wayne's a local celebrity here in South Africa, also stand-up comedian. He does very well here also on the side.
Nice.
So he does quite well. So
and then Sharon also says, Lethea, that's when couples just go into a comfort zone. That's a great point there as well. Adele, we have been married for 23 years now. What really helped us through the first few years of marriage was a book called The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. It really clears up a lot of misunderstandings.
Let's take one last comment.
Okay, so Lorian at Lethea McCann, I think that when they get married, they feel like they trapped or owned, which it shouldn't be because it's actually it's actually because you need to start allowing your spouse to bloom. I think that's what she's trying
Maybe
to
just
say.
a loss because I see Sharon said that is why I don't want to go into a relationship ever again. And then Lauren said, your true love is waiting for you, Sharon.
Yes.
Don't give up.
Yes.
I don't think people want to hear that when they say I don't want to be in a relationship. So I'm just I'm like, okay, your choice.
Yeah.
But that's the thing also, what Lorianne said is that when you enter into a marriage, now you think you own this person.
Yeah.
It's yours. You don't allow this person to flourish in their own individuality because you want everything you expect that everything this partner does should revolve around you.
That's right, yes.
And that it should only be the two of you. So how do you find that balance? Again, I will pose the question to our guest host. To allow your spouse to bloom and to find themselves. Because here's the other thing also. I've heard so many people say, I can't be in this relationship anymore. I have to find myself.
Oh,
how do you find
that is-
yourself, first of all, in a relationship or outside of a relationship? Because another thing, when it comes to young couples getting married, because it's still happening, how do they find themselves while being in a relationship, and how do their partner allow them to also do that?
That's a good question.
That's a great question. And I think something that I do often, that I learned to do over the years, is I always try to check myself, like, what is my part in whatever is going on, right? Like in a conversation or an argument. I try to see my part in whatever we're talking about or discussing, and try to not be, I think this, as a society as a whole, we're pretty selfish, right? Like we can get really wrapped up in what I need and what's good for me. And, we are a team. Like, if something is important to me, I make sure it's also important to him, and that he understands, what we're going through. And I just never look at it as myself versus him. Like, it's not a me versus him thing ever.
Well, even when we do hit that, where it's like we have different thoughts on something, you have to be patient enough to hear her side, and then I have to say my side. And there's times where we're like, let's revisit this, but whether it's a family decision or a business decision and stuff, but it is, you really kind of need to, it goes back to communicating and talking through it, and how passionate are you about it versus I'm just like, I don't think it's a good idea, but okay, let's try it or whatever. But there's those things you're like, absolutely not. That's a horrible idea. That's going to explode in our face or whatever. But it's hard because, we both have our own experiences and backgrounds and reasons why we're bringing that to that conversation, like everybody does, right?
And I think you have to be okay with the fact that you're going to argue, right? And you're not going to always agree. Like, it's not always going to be roses and rainbows.
What?
Oh.
Son.
I want roses and rainbows 24/7.
No, but that's okay too. And you can go through periods where you're like, I just need a break, right? I just need time to myself or whatever it is. But you always have to come back together and revisit or, have those conversations so that you understand each other.
I have something I can bring into this one. Is it a story? It's a small story. Yeah.
We like to
so
tell
she
stories.
grew up
We like to tell stories.
I promise this is very American to me to have United States behind my head while we're doing this. But
look.
No, but South Africa has a tear on the map. I couldn't show
here.
South Africa. It's got a rip on the map. And it's too low. You guys are too far south in the hemisphere. So I know this is very American of us. Sorry. We'll block that. But we're not from Texas. She grew up in Northern California, and we were living there trying to do the thing. I was DJing, we're kind of like, we don't have any direction. And then she got a job to bring us to Texas. So I was literally at home for 6 months with the kids while she was working. And that is I was fine with it. I was like, I got to be at home with the kid. I love being a dad. So I was great with it. But at the same time, there's another thing that's a huge thing that couples have to deal with. And that's like jealousy, right? So she was suddenly going back into the workforce, and she was the manager. She had mostly men on her team, right? And she's an attractive woman, right? So there she is. And it's hard as a dude as a man to come home from stories or to see her interacting with other men. And then you come in for lunch and you're like, what's going on in here? Who's this guy? Who's that guy? He's good looking, whatever. But there's that balance in life that you need to learn. And I think you learn it with your younger relationships or just going through relationships. There's jealousy that you're just going to have to deal with. And there's jealousy that now, okay, it's become a concern. There's men in the world. She's going to be interacting with men. There's no way she's just going to interact with women in life, right? But then suddenly, if it's a guy at work that they just have a good relationship, they have a good personality, they work together, she sees them a lot. But then suddenly, okay, that's the jealousy you just got to deal with. But then suddenly, okay, they're going to lunch every day. They're on the phone. They're texting. They're doing stuff that like, okay, that's beyond just a work relationship. Now that jealousy, I think, is more legitimate, and there's going to need to be questions. But you have to learn as a human to say, okay, that's no different than me having a woman friend that maybe she busts my chops about it. Like, oh, who's that? And I go,
yeah. And that's, like I said, like you have to know what is your part in this. Am I being ridiculous, and being unreasonable here, or is there something to be concerned with?
Yeah.
And that is kind of where I've learned to check myself when we have conversations or, we're having disagreements or just in general, like what part do I play? And this applies to life even more outside of just your relationship. Like, what is my part? Like, what am I saying or doing in this interaction with other humans?
Yeah.
I love that. And I just love what Dominic and Serena also just mentioned is understanding, is your insecurity coming from yourself, or is it stemming from something that your partner is inflicting within this relationship? And I think that is also where a lot of issues can arise, is either you're not acknowledging that the jealousy is within yourself and that there's insecurities within yourself that you need to deal with, and now it's poured over into the relationship, which can cause friction and conflict within that relationship, because now your partner is going to feel like, I cannot be myself. I cannot speak to people. I have to be afraid when my partner's around. How comfortable am I to converse with the opposite sex? Am I going to be accused?
I'm comfortable conversing with the opposite sex. Oh, you're talking about how's your partner gonna feel?
So that can come up as well. Those are. Mm-hmm.
It was a huge role reversal, because I think, a lot of times, especially back in the day, the man was out at work and the woman was at home with the kids.
Yeah.
And it's hard when you come home from work and you tell about how they did this and how I did this, and you're like, I was breastfeeding all day. Like, what am I supposed to compete with that, right? And then the switch, when I was at home with the kids and she was out having, she's getting dressed up, she's doing lunch things and all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm working on the alphabet at home, So, but as long as you're okay in your roles, but you got to be, you got to understand that, like, but it's hard. It's just hard sometimes, because I didn't have that. I didn't have enough in my life, and then slowly I started getting back into work, and then it kind of balanced out. But
of course,
and you're going to go through those ebbs and flows. That's the other thing. Like, we've been in such different places in our lives together throughout the 10 plus years we've been together, and we still just love each other through it, right? Like, that is the underlying theme of our relationship, and it should be of any relationship, is that at the end of the day, I still love him, right? Like, I
still love him. I still love him, right? So we come to the end of the show, and you see it goes quick, and that's why we try to manage it with stuff. I'm surprised the viewers have been very calm with their comments. They probably like your advice. So I've been very calm. No disrespect or nothing coming from anyone and saying, that's not how I love. Normally our viewers gets disgruntled and say, you are just talking because you found love now and stuff like that. Anyway, that's what we get when people don't find love. So guys, at the end of the show, what we do is we ask you for some motivation, words of motivation. It can just be something to be real. Just get your ass up and go work. You could just say that also. But we're all going through COVID. No matter where you find yourself in the world, everybody's struggling with this COVID. Everybody's finding it difficult to find a job or to even break through and to invent new ways, because not everybody's trained creatively to be entrepreneurs like yourself, and to also know to put egos one side and all those things. So without me bubbling on, because I've been quiet, you see, I have verbal diarrhea. If you allow me to speak, I just go. So yeah, I'm gonna pop you guys on. You can do it individually or together. It's all you. We're gonna enlarge the screen, and you guys go for it.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
So I kind of mentioned it earlier, and this is not my quote. I heard somebody else say it, and they said their world fell apart around them, but it gave them the opportunity to rebuild it in the way they wanted it to be built, as opposed to the way it had just been constructed. So if you lost your job, lost a relationship, whatever, it's hard. You need time to like digest it. But it's if you try to look at it as an opportunity to try to maybe get into something else, because life is too short to be doing a job or in a relationship where you are miserable. Don't be miserable. Make a change. And it's sometimes going to be a little change. Maybe just do something on the side, like a hobby that is really fun, that you're passionate about. And who knows, that's kind of what happened for me and it grew into our business. And it maybe is not always going to be lucrative, and you can't always like grow it into something, but it just gives you an out, something you can cling to that's like yours, or something you're passionate about, something you enjoy. And it gives your life a little bit of a shining part, because sometimes there's the 9 to 5 of the job is hard, or your parents are giving you a hard time or something, but you have something that's like an escape, and it's like something you can cling to that's really good. So if your life fell apart, you lost your job, try a new industry, try something new, try to go another direction and find something else that maybe you can be like a whole new career could take you a whole nother direction. My other favorite quote is, it's never too late to be what you might have been, right? So start over, like try it again, take it as an opportunity, like, okay, let's go a different direction, a whole new industry, whole new life. Boom. Scene. Sorry, that was a bit much. Go ahead, you guys.
I'll just leave it at that. That was beautiful. And I agree. And just be kind. Be kind to each other. Be kind to your spouse. Be kind to people you meet. Be kind on social media.
Your kids. Be kind to your kids.
Be kind to your kids. Just
All kids.
the
Be
world
kind to
could
nice
use
kids.
more kindness. So that's mine.
Love that.
Thank you so much, Dominic and Serena, for taking the time to be on the show and sharing so much valuable content that you have here tonight. And if you have a few minutes to wait for us in the studio while we're in the show, that would be perfect. But if you don't,
Sure.
we totally understand. So if you can, just say bye to your viewers and we will see you shortly.
Goodbye.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, guys. See you now,
See you now.
if you have time.
Yep.
Okay. I enjoyed the show.
Brilliant show.
It was another different perspective. And this is why I like engaging with people across the globe, because we don't understand that we find the similarity with everybody, no matter what culture, race, or who you are.
Exactly.
We all suffer in this life. Well, let's not call a relationship suffering.
Well, we all go through relationships. We all have to deal with them. So no matter where you come from, no matter what language you speak, you're all dealing with relationships. So just getting perspectives around the world, it's perfect.
And
So-
also, they can also catch them on TikTok. I would say Wedding Duo.
So if you want any advice or tips on wedding planning, please go ahead and follow them on TikTok. It's at Wedding Duo, and also Instagram. It's at Last Entertainment.
And show them the South Africans are everywhere in this world. Follow them, like, share, comment. They will give advice back. That's what you want. We like to reach and show that your wedding could be different. Give them a call. They have a lot of unique ways. Give them an email if you think that roaming data or airtime is going to be too much. Do it. There's many ways to break through. But guys, it was another beautiful. I don't know. Everybody, well done on the show.
Yeah.
Love this
Yasmina
evening
saying
show. We loved
awesome,
you guys also.
Awesome, guys. Really
And-
great topic. Learned a lot. So thank you so much for all the comments and thank you for engaging. And if you know anybody within your network that can gain value from the show, go ahead, like and share this video and like and share our page for future content.
And also season 4 starting on DSTV 263 National
On the
and on
21st
Cape
of
Town
June.
Television Local. So go and watch season 4 from the 21st.
To
and-
21st of